In 1969, Sharon Tate was 26 years old and standing at the edge of genuine stardom. She had earned a Golden Globe nomination for Valley of the Dolls. She was married to Roman Polanski and 8.5 months pregnant with their first child. Everyone around her agreed the best was still to come. Polanski was in London for work on the night of August 8th. That night, members of Charles Manson's cult entered the house at 10,050 Cielo Drive in Los Angeles. Sharon Tate and 4 others, her friend Jay Sebring, writer Wojciech Frykowski, coffee heiress Abigail Folger, and 18-year-old Stephen Parent, were murdered. Tate pleaded for the life of her unborn child. Manson had instructed his followers to kill everyone there as brutally as possible. What emerged in the weeks that followed was almost absurdly cruel in its randomness. Manson had chosen that house not because of Tate at all. He chose it because its former tenant, music producer Terry Melcher, had previously declined to give him a recording contract. Sharon Tate happened to be living in the wrong house at the wrong time. The murders changed everything about how the world saw her. During her lifetime, press coverage routinely described her as the beautiful wife of Roman Polanski. After her death, she became a symbol of something larger. The end of the 1960s innocence, the moment when the decade's dream of peace and love conclusively collapsed. Cultural historians have written for decades about August 9, 1969, as the day the 60s effectively ended. The world also slowly rediscovered Tate as a person. Beginning in 2012, exhibitions of her personal wardrobe, gowns by Christian Dior, Yves Saint Laurent, and Ossie Clark, allowed the public to see her not as a victim, but as a woman of genuine taste and style and presence. Margot Robbie portrayed her in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2019 in a film that was deliberately structured to show Sharon Tate alive and joyful rather than dead. Tarantino said openly that was the point, to give her back some of what was taken. In the 1940s, the press called Hedy Lamarr the most beautiful woman in the world. It was true and simultaneously one of the most damaging descriptions ever applied to a human being, because it meant that virtually nothing else about her was taken seriously. She was born in Vienna in 1914, trained as an engineer in her thinking, if not formally, and arrived in Hollywood after fleeing Europe as a Jewish woman ahead of the Second World War. MGM cast her, promoted her beauty, and showed no interest in what was happening in the other part of her brain. In 1942, while working as a major film star, she and composer George Antheil co-invented and patented what they called the secret communication system. The core idea was frequency hopping, a method of rapidly switching radio signal frequencies in a synchronized pattern that made the signal impossible for an enemy to intercept or jam. They designed it specifically for military torpedo guidance, to prevent German forces from blocking the radio signals that steered Allied weapons. Lamarr donated the patent to the United States government. The military set it aside. The patent expired in 1959 without paying her a cent. In the 1960s, the United States Navy quietly began using the underlying principles of their system. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, frequency-based communication technology was deployed on American ships. Then came the mobile phone era, and engineers building wireless systems realized that the foundational concept, spread spectrum frequency hopping, was essential to Bluetooth and to early versions of Wi-Fi. Entire billion-dollar industries were built on a principle that Hedy Lamarr had worked out in her spare time between film shoots. She died in January 2000 at 85. In 2014, 14 years after her death, she was posthumously inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. Google celebrated her 101st birthday with an animated doodle. The 2017 documentary Bombshell about her life won an Emmy. The woman nobody listened to because she was too beautiful had been thinking ahead of her time for half a century. Marilyn Monroe was found dead on August 4th or 5th, 1962. The exact time of death was never definitively established. She was 36. The official cause was acute barbiturate poisoning. The investigations, the theories, the conspiracies began immediately and have never fully stopped. During her lifetime, Fox treated her the way studios treated assets, not people. She was called difficult because she studied acting seriously, because she founded her own production company, because she fought for creative control and the right to choose her roles. She read Proust and Dostoevsky. She was married to Arthur Miller. Nobody in Hollywood considered any of this worth taking seriously. Her death changed the terms entirely. Andy Warhol created his famous silkscreen portraits of her within weeks of her funeral. That series, Multiple identical faces in different flat colors became one of the most significant artworks of the 20th century, and one of the first times a celebrity's death was immediately and deliberately transformed into cultural commentary. Over the decades since, Monroe became the subject of genuine intellectual attention. Gloria Steinem wrote about her as a tragic figure who lived and died before feminism could have protected her. Biographers documented her personal library of 400 books, her IQ testing, her battle with psychiatric institutions, her fights with Fox's studio system. What emerged from that scholarship was a portrait completely at odds with the dumb blonde mythology, a woman who understood her situation precisely and fought against it with everything she had. Today, the Marilyn Monroe brand generates tens of millions of dollars annually in licensing revenue. She appeared in Chanel No. 5 advertising 40 years after her death. Elton John wrote Candle in the Wind as a tribute to her in 1973. When Princess Diana died in 1997, he rewrote the song for her because Monroe had established the template for how the world grieves young iconic women. In 1954, Dorothy Dandridge became the first African-American woman nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance in Carmen Jones. She appeared on the cover of Time magazine. The world seemed for a moment to be moving in the right direction. The reality was something else. Dandridge lived in an America where racial segregation was daily life with teeth. There is a documented story. When she stayed at a hotel in Las Vegas where she was performing, the management informed her that while she was welcome to appear in the show for white audiences, she was not permitted to swim in the hotel's pool. After she touched the water, the pool was drained and refilled. Her daughter Harolyn was born with severe brain damage and required constant care. Dandridge spent large sums on treatment. Her second marriage to hotel owner Jack Dennison became a financial disaster. By 1963, she had no money left for Harolyn's round-the-clock care, and her daughter was placed in a state institution. Dandridge suffered a breakdown. On September 8, 1965, she was found dead in her Hollywood home. She was 42. Her bank account held exactly $2.14. The initial autopsy suggested an embolism. Further testing showed high levels of an antidepressant called tofranil. Whether the overdose was accidental or deliberate was never conclusively established. The recognition that followed her death took decades to arrive, but was substantial. In 1997, film historian Donald Bogle published a definitive biography. In 1999, HBO broadcast Introducing Dorothy Dandridge, with Halle Berry in the lead. Berry won a Golden Globe and an Emmy for the performance. In 2022, Dandridge's face appeared on the American Quarter, as part of the U.S. Mint's American Women Quarters program. She has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She won the argument with history. She just wasn't alive to hear the answer. Pierangeli was born Anna Maria Pierangeli in Sardinia in 1932. In Hollywood, she won a Golden Globe for Teresa in 1951, and MGM considered her one of the most promising young actresses on their roster. She was delicate and striking, with enormous expressive eyes, a European presence that the press immediately loved. In 1954, on the Warner Brothers lot, she met James Dean. They were both in their early 20s. By all accounts who knew them, the relationship was immediate and entirely serious. Dean wanted to marry her, she wanted to marry him. Her mother, a devout Italian Catholic, refused. Dean was not Catholic. His behavior and reputation were unacceptable to her. She petitioned Jack Warner, changed her daughter's phone number, and did everything in her considerable power to keep them apart. In late 1954, Pierangeli married singer Vic Damone. According to the story that has been told by people who were there, Dean sat on his motorcycle outside the church during the ceremony, listening to the bells. Dean died in a car accident in September 1955. He was 24. Both of Angeli's marriages, to Damone and later to Italian composer Armando Trovajoli, ended in divorce and exhausting custody battles over her sons, battles she lost both times. Her career faded. Financially, she struggled. Months before her death, she wrote to a friend, "My love died at the wheel of a Porsche. It's been 17 years that I've been desperately lonely." On September 10, 1971, she was found dead at her Beverly Hills home from a barbiturate overdose. The investigation concluded the death was most likely accidental. Her doctor had given her an injection of a sedative that day, and the combination with other medication proved fatal. She was 39 years old. According to people who knew her well, she was terrified of turning 40. In the 1940s, Carol Landis was a genuine star. Her breakthrough came with 1 million BC in 1940. During World War II, she traveled more than 14,000 miles, entertaining troops in North Africa and Europe, performing under fire, and wrote a book about the experience. She was courageous and funny and larger than life. Her private life was difficult. 4 marriages, none of them happy. In 1947, she met British actor Rex Harrison, who was married to actress Lily Palmer. Their affair was, as contemporaries described it, an open secret throughout Hollywood. Landis wanted Harrison to leave his wife. He would not leave. On July 5, 1948, she was found dead in her Pacific Palisades home. She was 29. The official ruling was suicide, an overdose of Seconal sleeping pills. Rex Harrison discovered the body. According to testimony in the subsequent coroner's inquest, he waited several hours before calling police. When officers arrived, he insisted they had been merely close friends. He denied any romantic relationship. According to accounts from the period, Landis left 2 notes, one addressed to her mother, which was published in newspapers at the time, and one believed to have been addressed to Harrison, which disappeared. Harrison denied any knowledge of a second note at the inquest. Landis's family has never accepted the official account. Her great-niece, Tammy Powell, ran the actress's official website for years and stated publicly that the family believes Harrison was directly responsible for her death. That has never been proven, and it was never properly investigated. After her death, Fox gradually allowed her name to disappear from the studio's history. For decades, she remained in shadow. In recent years, film historians have worked to restore her biography and recognize her contribution. Her story now appears regularly in academic work on the rise and fall of studio-era stars. Peg Entwistle was born in Wales in 1908. She was a serious stage actress with a real Broadway career behind her. In 1932, like so many others, she came to Los Angeles to try the movies. She landed 1 role, in 13 Women, with Myrna Loy and Irene Dunne. The film was a commercial failure. RKO did not renew her contract. It was the worst year of the Great Depression. She was 24 years old, broke, and had no way back to New York. On the evening of September 16, 1932, she told her uncle she was going for a walk to see some friends. Instead, she hiked up the hill to the Hollywoodland sign, it still read the full word then, climbed a workman's ladder at the back of the letter H, which stood 50 feet tall, and jumped into the ravine below. Her body was not found until September 18th, when a hiker discovered her shoes, jacket, and purse with a note tucked inside. "I am afraid I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain." Her uncle received a letter addressed to her the following day. It was from the Beverly Hills Playhouse. They were offering her the lead role in an upcoming stage production. The role was a woman who commits suicide. Whether that offer would have changed anything is impossible to know, but the detail entered Hollywood history immediately and has never left it. The girl who jumped off the Hollywood sign from despair had, that same day, received the offer she had been waiting for. Peg Entwistle became the Hollywood sign girl, the permanent symbol of broken dreams at the gates of the industry. Her story was incorporated into Ryan Murphy's Netflix series Hollywood. Her single film, 13 Women, was released 1 month after her death. Tourists visiting the sign on the hill above Los Angeles think of her. She achieved the fame she wanted in the only way the story had left her. Anna May Wong was born in Los Angeles in 1905, the daughter of a Chinese laundryman. She became the first Chinese-American actress to achieve international film stardom. She appeared in more than 60 films. In 1932, she starred opposite Marlene Dietrich in Shanghai Express. It was the peak of her Hollywood career, and it illustrated precisely the limits of what the industry would allow her. In 1935, MGM produced The Good Earth, a major studio film about a Chinese farming family. The lead female role, a Chinese peasant woman, was given to white Austrian actress Louise Rayner. Anna May Wong was offered the role of a villainous concubine in a supporting capacity. She declined. The studio's logic was straightforward and ugly. The male lead was white, and therefore a romantic relationship with a Chinese actress was considered cinematically impermissible. Rayner won the Academy Award for the role. For years, the industry offered Wong only villains, servants, and exotic decorations. She was paid less than white colleagues of comparable visibility. Interracial romantic scenes with white actors were effectively barred by production codes in most states. which meant she could never function as a genuine leading lady in the conventional sense. She died in February 1961 of a heart attack, at 55, shortly before she was to take on what would have been her first major lead television role. The recognition that followed came slowly and then decisively. In 1960, just before her death, she became the first Asian American actress to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In October 2022, the United States Mint issued an American quarter, the standard 25-cent coin in circulation across the country, bearing her portrait as part of the American Women Quarters program alongside Maya Angelou and Sally Ride. More than 226 million coins with her face entered circulation. They sit in pockets and coin jars across America right now, held by people who may have no idea who she was. She spent her career fighting a system that would not give her the roles she deserved. She is now, literally, in everyone's pocket. Jean Tierney was one of the most beautiful actresses of her generation. They called her the most perfect face in Hollywood. Her role in the 1944 film noir Laura became a classic. The scene in which a detective falls in love with the portrait of a murdered woman is one of the most studied moments in the history of the genre. Behind that face was a story of extraordinary suffering. In 1943, her daughter Daria was born with severe disabilities, profound deafness, visual impairment, and intellectual disability. The cause traced back to a single incident during Tierney's pregnancy. A fan who had broken quarantine for German measles attended an event where Tierney was present and shook her hand, wanting to meet the movie star. Tierney did not learn this until years later when the same woman told the story herself, apparently proud of what she had done. Tierney never recovered from her daughter's condition. Through the 1950s, she experienced escalating episodes of depression and mania. She was diagnosed with manic depressive psychosis, what is now called bipolar disorder. Hollywood had no framework for this and no patience. Roles disappeared. The studio moved on. Over 6 years, she was hospitalized 3 times in psychiatric institutions. She underwent a total of 32 electroconvulsive therapy sessions, what was then called shock treatment. In her own account, written years later, she described the treatments as having caused permanent memory damage. Significant portions of her life before and during treatment never came back to her. In December 1957, she was found standing on the ledge of her mother's 14th floor apartment building. Police negotiated with her for 20 minutes before she stepped back inside. She survived. She eventually returned to acting in 1962's Advise and Consent and a handful of other films before retiring. In 1979, she published a memoir called Self-Portrait. It was one of the first books by a Hollywood star that described in clinical and personal detail the experience of psychiatric hospitalization, electroshock therapy, and living with mental illness across decades. The book became a bestseller and contributed meaningfully to public conversations about mental health in America at a time when those conversations were still extremely rare. Jean Tierney died in 1991. What she left behind mattered more than the films.